Hello and welcome to another weekly update. I hope you're doing well. Rubbish weather we're having this week, certainly. Looking out the window, I know lots of other people have had snow and flooding and things, so you shouldn't really complain. But yeah, it's all the way. I think we're getting a whole blast of cold air as well coming soon, so we'll see. Anyway, plenty of interesting things happening this week already. There's three I really want to talk through. Deliberately not loaded up loads of links to talk through. Partly because I want to keep it a little bit shorter because everyone's busy, but also to give a bit of time to talk through this first one as well. So I talked about this a little bit last week. Well, it wasn't announced last week, but we knew something was coming on February the 4th last week, but we didn't know what it was. And we talked through some speculation. Mary Jo thought it was something to do with Cortex. I thought it was something to do with employee well-being and mindfulness and all that sort of stuff, and some of the things that were shown at Ignite. Turns out we were both right. It was both of those things. So that's kind of interesting. And actually, so let's cover what was announced first. So Microsoft Viva is the thing that was announced. What is Microsoft Viva? Well, you can access it in Microsoft Teams. So I guess think of it like an app. It's actually four things, I think. It's got four separate little names. There's Viva Connections, there's Viva Insights, there's Viva Learning, and there's Viva Topics. So what on earth is going on? So kind of all up, Viva is kind of Microsoft's approach to help people work in the digital age better. It's their response to everybody being at home, everybody suddenly having to work from home in ways that they hadn't planned on necessarily, and really trying to help people feel connected, help them feel supported, and give them the tools they need to kind of do the best possible job they can. And Microsoft are talking about this in terms of a new type of application, a new category of technology solution called Employee Experience Platforms, or EXP. And apparently Microsoft Viva is the first such EXP built for the digital era. So what does that actually mean? So let's go through those four things. So Viva Connections is... It's a bit hard. It's a bit hard to describe, right? Microsoft call it a way to provide a curated and branded employee destination, which sounds great. I think of it a little bit like the SharePoint news sites. That's what it looks like to me. It looks like it's built on SharePoint. In fact, I think it is built on SharePoint. And it looks very much like the thing SharePoint did a few years ago with news sites, trying to collate modules of information together into a single dashboard, accessible in Teams. I think you're going to be able to pin it as the kind of first thing that you see in Microsoft Teams. So it's its own app, and you'll be able to put it on the app bar, the left-hand rail, bring it right to the top. So for organisations that want a single landing place for their company, I think that could be a good place for that. It's got its own kind of feed of information that's coming from lots of different places. You can also have different customized versions for different types of the workforce. So for instance, for frontline workers, first-line workers, really important part of the puzzle at the moment. Well, always really, but often kind of neglected slightly when it comes to digital solutions like this. Bringing forth the information that they need up and front and center is kind of really important. Connections is kind of, I think for me, I think we need to see how that evolves. It's very similar to lots of other things that are in this space at the moment, not least of them SharePoint. So I think maybe we'll see how this pans out. I think it might just be like another way of dashboarding information, but we'll see. Next up, Viva Insights, and this is the stuff that I thought was coming, like predicted last time we talked, that I thought was coming in terms of stats, helping you stay connected, helping you protect your time, do things like headspace integration for some mindfulness, like exercises if you like, and that's all in Viva Insights. So I talked about that quite a lot last time. That was the stuff that was announced at Ignite 2020. And Interesting. And there's also a view for managers as well. So that's a kind of more aggregated version of the same thing, really. So that's interesting. That's all of that is called Viva Insights. Okay, all that stuff that I talked about last week, the stats around productivity and ways you could use Teams better. That's all in Viva Insights. The next thing, the third thing in this kind of 4 Viva things is Viva Learning. So it's exactly what it sounds like. It's training courses, it's content, it's all built into Teams. It's like a learning hub in Teams. There's AI in there, of course there is. But it aggregates content from, and this is quite clever actually, aggregating content from LinkedIn Learning, Microsoft Learn, but also as an organization you can supply your own content, which is kind of really interesting. And you can also use content from paid providers as well, like Pluralsight and Coursera and others, right? Brings it all together in one dashboard for employees so they can kind of see everything that's available. I think that's a really good idea, to have corporate training material alongside material that people can access from outside the organisation. So I think that's really interesting. Viva Topics is the last one. And this is kind of interesting as well. This is very similar to like the skill finder stuff that's been in SharePoint for a little while. It's surfacing, I guess, some of that maybe. It's bringing it into Teams, into a dashboard. The idea is to connect people together. So you know that in your organization somewhere there is somebody who understands this acronym that you've just seen, and you don't know what it means. So that's the kind of promise of Viva Topics. It will go acronym busting for you. It will find the people that you need to ask the questions of to kind of get your questions answered. It will find related content. It will find related people. So that's the promise. I think it'll be interesting. Again, also can surface information from third-party services, it's like things like ServiceNow, for instance. A lot of information tied up in ServiceNow knowledge bases. Surfacing that, bringing it to the front is really interesting as well. And yeah, so I think that's Viva Topics, and I think it's going to be interesting to see whether this gets a good take-up or not. I think some of these things genuinely could be really useful and really interesting. So some of these require like an organizational buy-in. So for instance, the training content stuff, I think that could work really well if somebody in the organization just kind of collated all the training material together, figured it out, got it in the right format, uploaded it in the right place, tagged it, whatever it is you need to do to get it on there, and promoted it. That's your training portal done, and it's accessible in Microsoft Teams, and that's really, really nice. And you can roll that out today with Microsoft Teams. You can roll it out to users everywhere. It doesn't matter. They don't have to be on the network to access it and everything. So anyway, that's Microsoft Viva. And these 4 things are in slightly confusingly different states of readiness. So as of today, Viva Topics is GA. Viva Insights is public preview. Viva Learning is private preview. And the other one, what was the other one? Viva Connections? No, that doesn't sound right. Yes, Viva Connections. Viva Connections is not mentioned. So I don't know what the state of Viva Connections is. So anyway, Viva has its own website. Let me show you real quick. So Viva has its own website, Microsoft.com/Microsoft-Viva. You can see these 4 things. So this is what I was talking about with topics. You can see somebody looking for this acronym and trying to find out. You sort of hover over, you see it in Teams. And this is the interesting thing. So this is just normal Teams messages. It's picked out the acronym here, and hovering over it then gives you that information, allows you to jumping off point to kind of find out more about it. Viva Connections. You can see a little animation here of what that looks like. And this is kind of why I said similar to SharePoint news sites, right? Because that is kind of what it looks like. But this is interesting. Look, it's pinned to the top of the left rail. Maybe, I think that probably means as well, maybe it's the first thing you see when you open Teams. So that's kind of really good for organizations who need that landing page to kind of promote information and make sure everybody is on the same page, as it were. Viva Learning. I think this is really interesting. And look, you can see PowerPoint, kind of something from Microsoft Learn here, maybe something from other providers, LinkedIn Learning logo there. So it's a whole mix up of different learning. This is the learning recommended for this person. So yeah, I think this is kind of really interesting. Yeah, and again, obviously you can just kind of copy a link, promote it, share it with people as well. And Viva Insights. Yeah, and this is the stuff that looks really similar to what we talked about last week. So look out for Microsoft Viva coming to you, coming to your organization, I'm sure. No information yet on things like APIs and developer support. I think there's loads of opportunities there. I know that for some of them, like some of the topic stuff, I think they were talking about in the blog post, it talks about integration for connectors to Graph to bring in more information. I'd love to see more APIs built out around this space to enable developers to help onboard, for instance, new training material. You know, that should be something that can be built in to, because everybody already has third-party learning solutions, so or repositories of data. It should be possible to kind of have an API extension into those to be able to keep Microsoft Viva up to date. Similarly, some of the stuff it's doing around insights, kind of pulling out acronym busting, stuff like that. That would be amazing to have as an API so that developers can build it into other applications and not just first party into Teams. Imagine how cool it would be to be able to take the Viva Insights smarts, if you like, and put them inside your own Teams application. That would be really cool. So lots of interesting things coming, I think. No word on APIs for Viva yet. I'm going to try and find out if that's a thing. I don't see it mentioned anywhere at the moment, but doesn't mean it's not coming. So yeah, really exciting, and one to not only keep a lookout for, but also go and try out today, because some of those things are GA and some are public preview, so you can definitely go and try them today. Okay, that was quite a lot talking about one thing. Next up, let's talk about something that's a bit more techie and more developer-y, and that's Microsoft Teams. Well, it's actually bot framework stuff, in fact. It's new events that are coming to the bot framework SDK specifically for lifecycle events in Microsoft Teams. So this is a blog post put out by the Teams developer blog, and this talks about some new event types that are going to be surfaced. So yeah, so some of these you can access now. Some of these are here already. New ones are coming. So these ones, these team deleted, team restored, team archived, team unarchived, and channel restored are new, and you can access them today. There's a full table you can go look at. These ones are coming soon. So installation updates, which is interesting. So every time your application gets updated, that's an installation update event. And yeah, so you'll get a special notification for those, a special event, if you like, for those. So that's quite cool. You'll be able to ping your users and say, here's what's new, here's what's changed. They're in developer preview. They will be GA in March. So that's kind of next month. You can go and see them now if you move your client into the public developer preview. Yep. Or and then sideload your application. Other things. So this is the breaking change, I think. So moving forward, we'll also align the post uninstall behavior for bots in the personal scope with the Teams and group ones, meaning you won't be able to send and receive messages after an app has been uninstalled. Right, that makes perfect sense. It's been a bit of a weird endpoint, a weird edge case for personal scope applications. You've actually been able to continue to send messages even after they've been uninstalled. So now you're going to get a 403 response code. And that'll tell you what's happened. Either the app was uninstalled or the bot was blocked. Yeah, that's good to see that loophole, if you like, tied up, because it was a bit weird. And then finally, there's a reminder here to make sure that if you're not using the SDK, you should be prepared to handle these new events, because they are adding events all the time. So you need to make sure that your code will not fall over if it comes across an event it doesn't immediately recognize. But if you are using the Bot Framework SDK and you're not doing any overriding of the default event behavior, you'll be fine, basically. So the SDK will stay up to date and will handle these events, even if it doesn't understand them actually, by the look of it. But you should make sure that if you're doing anything yourself that's not handled by the SDK, you need to sort of design for the fact that you might be receiving unexpected events. So that's that. You can go and read that blog post. And I guess there's some work there just to make sure, review your code, make sure that it would work with these unexpected events, because they're going to be unexpected to your code because they didn't exist before. And there's also maybe some opportunity there for you to react to them as well, if that makes sense for your application. Oh, and I guess the other gotcha, if you're doing personal scope messaging to users and you are somehow continuing to do that for whatever reason after they've uninstalled your application, that's something that you're not going to be able to do for very long. Okay, final thing I want to talk about, because we've already been doing this 15 minutes, so final thing I want to talk about is a blog post by Vesa Nopperman, fellow MVP, who's done a brilliantly detailed blog post about the new Approvals app, which is kind of now GA, and there's lots and lots of information about how to use it. The bit I found most interesting, let me come down and share my screen as well, is, let me go down here a bit and show you what I mean. So he covers, I'll come back to this in a minute actually, he covers loads of stuff about the Approvals app, how to use it, how to set it up, how to see what's going on. You know, you can see this, right? Like, so much detail, it's absolutely fantastic. The bit that really caught my attention that I thought was worth sharing and talking about is the ability to do it through the Power Platform. So specifically Power Automate, which has an approval connector. So that means you can create these approval flows these approval processes in your flows, in your Power Automate flows, which is really cool, really cool. Yep. So he goes through how to do that. There's some good advice here, and some decisions you have to make, and yeah, so you can do all of that in Power Automate and take advantage of these approval flows, which is really nice. So I thought that was worth checking out. All right, those are the three things I kind of wanted to talk about. So the really big one, Microsoft Viva, look out for that. Changes to the SDK for the bot framework, some possible breaking changes for you, but mostly I think just new opportunities. And then approvals in Microsoft Teams, including ways to do it using the Power Platform for some low code or no code integration into approvals, which is really cool. All right, fantastic. Have a great weekend, whatever it is you're doing. Have a great week next week. And let's all hope the weather clears up a little bit. It'll be summer soon, I guess. All right, have a good one, and speak to you next time.